Welcome to the Parsha Perspective. Each week, we will delve deep in a weekly Torah portion to find a practical and insightful way to enhance your daily life. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Rabbi Shalom Yamini, and each week we will look into the weekly Torah portion to find practical and insightful ways to enhance your daily life. This week's Parsha Perspective is in honor of our homeland, Eretz Yisroel. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu, may God continue to protect our brave soldiers, and may God return all the hostages from Gaza immediately. This week's Parsha Perspective is in honor of the Refuah Shlema, of Pesha, Henna, Yitta, Gittel, and all those who need to experience a speedy and complete recovery. This week's Parsha Perspective is in loving memory of Edward ben Efraim, Shlomo ben Edward, Geulah bat Shimon, and Yirachmiel Daniel ben Gedalia. May their souls be uplifted and may their memories be a blessing. This week's Torah portion is Parshas Pekudei, Redemption in Progress, as we close out the second book of the Torah, Sefer Shemais. Our Parsha begins with Moshe Rabbeinu making a full accounting of all the gold, silver, and copper that the Jewish people donated towards the construction of the Mishkan. The two foremen, Betzalel and Eliav, presented all the completed components and vessels to Moshe Rabbeinu for inspection. And after carefully reviewing each and every single vessel and piece and component, Moshe Rabbeinu consecrates them. He makes them holy, and the whole entire Mishkan, in fact, with a special oil called the Shemen HaMishcha, and places each item in its designated location. And then he anoints his brother Aaron as the high priest and his four sons, Nadav, Avihu, Elazar, and Isamar, as Kohanim, as priests, initiating them into the covenant of the priesthood of the Kohana. Once everything was completed, the cloud of glory, God's presence, descended, signaling that God's presence was now in the Mishkan and was dwelling in the Mishkan. And the same cloud would become their guide throughout the desert. And when it lifted, they traveled, and when it settled, they encamped. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, was not only in their midst, He led them step by step towards their destiny. I previously explored the following question, but in light of the ongoing war in Israel and the uncertainty facing Jews around the world, it feels especially relevant now to revisit again. My hope is that the renewed perspective will shed light on our current moment and offer some spiritual grounding that we so deeply and desperately need. The question at hand begins with our Torah portion. Why does the Torah, which is usually and normally very concise, repeat the word Mishkan in the very same pasuk? The Torah writes, Ele Pekudei HaMishkan, Mishkan HaEdus. These are the accounting, the numbers of the Mishkan of testimony. And they were counted at Moshe Rabbeinu's command. What is the deeper meaning behind this repetition? The Kli Yakar, Rev. Shlomo Efraim, the famous and renowned rabbi of Prague in the early 17th century, gives an interesting explanation. And he quotes the Medrash Tanchuma, which teaches us that just as there is a physical Mishkan here on earth, there is a parallel Mishkan in heaven. And the two mirror each other in holiness, intention, and in service to God. In essence, every detail of our service below echoes in the spiritual realms above. The Kli Yakar explains that Moshe was teaching the Jewish nation that the heavenly Mishkan testifies before God to the effort, to the passion, to the concentration they had and invested in building the Mishkan below. And this testimony would continue for 480 years until the construction of the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim by Shlomo HaMelech, by David HaMelech and Shlomo HaMelech. And that is why it is critical that the physical Mishkan be built to the higher standard of beauty, holiness, and precision. Its splendor reflected not just the craftsmanship, but the nation's love and devotion to God. But when there is no Mishkan, when there is no Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim, the Kli Yakar continues that our struggle and perseverance, specifically our personal growth, stand as our testimony in heaven. Each time we push ourselves past our nature to refine ourselves, we give voice to our soul, to our neshama. Every step we take to build character and to come closer to God is etched in heaven in stone, bearing witness to who we are and what we strive to become. However, Rashi, Rev. Shlomo Yitzchaki, the leading Torah commentary, gives a deeper and more profound explanation. He writes that the double use of the word HaMishkan and Mishkan alludes to the two Batei Mikdash, the two temples that were eventually destroyed due to the sins of the Jewish people. But this repetition is not a redundancy, it is a prophetic vision. The Torah, which is normally very concise in every word, doubles this term to teach us a spiritual truth. The Mishkan and later the Beis Mikdash were taken from us as a form of a collateral, a mashkon for our sins. Just as a collateral is held by the lender, the destruction of the Beis Mikdash is not the end of our relationship with God, but rather proof that the relationship still exists. The destruction was not a severing of connection, but a sign that something precious was being held until the Jewish people would return to reclaim it. And the presence of the Mishkan and later the Beis Mikdash was not just a symbol of holiness, but a guarantee that our covenant with God, that our bris with HaKadosh Baruch Hu remained in place even through exile, even through pain and hardship. And according to this understanding, the double expression in our pasuk of the word Mishkan is not just poetic or repetitive. It reflects a layered truth about our relationship with God. One Mishkan that existed in our physical world, and one that continues to testify above that our covenant remains alive. It reminds us that God is still holding on to His promise, waiting for us to return, waiting for us to rebuild and fully redeem what was never lost. And the depth of this lesson is only magnified by the teachings of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Lushnierson of blessed memory. The Rebbe constantly emphasized that we are the last generation before the Geulah, before the ultimate redemption. And despite how low we may feel in comparison to the holiness of the previous generations, our actions will be the final nail in the coffin of this exile, of all exiles. And this perspective transforms our understanding of exile. It is not merely a punishment or a distance from holiness, heaven forbid. It is part of a process. And just as a collateral is returned when the loan is repaid, the destruction of the Beis Mikdash is not permanent, heaven forbid. It is a divine guarantee that God is holding on to His promise. The Rebbe saw every mitzvah, every act of goodness, every moment of faith, of belief, of trust in God, as part of the repayment that will trigger the Geulah Refuah Shlema, the final redemption. We are not waiting passively, we are actively building. Each deed adding a brick to the future Beis Mikdash, reminding us that what was once lost is only waiting to be reclaimed. In our daily life, it is imperative to realize that we often grow more from our setbacks than our successes. Failure has a way of exposing what comfort conceals. It forces us to confront, to reassess, and to rebuild with greater intention. While success may validate our path, failure sharpens our perspective. It deepens our resolve, it humbles us, it clarifies our values and strengthens our inner compass. And perhaps even greater, it prepares us. The struggle, the lessons, the resilience born from failure enables us to fully recognize, to fully embrace the opportunity of success when it finally comes. Without the fall, we would not appreciate the climb. True achievement is not defined by the absence of failure, but what we do because of it. There's a profound quote from Winston Churchill. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that truly counts. Have a great weekend and good Shabbos. Thank you for tuning in to the Parsha Perspective. Check out our website, theparshaperspective.com. Send thoughts and comments to theparshaperspective@gmail.com. Till next time, thanks for listening.